Hello, hello, and welcome, virtual festival goers. We are so happy and thankful that you've joined us today for the GPJFF in conversation with the director of The End of Love, Keren then Rafael. So I hope you enjoyed this film just as much as I did. The End of Love is streaming now and will be available until Friday, November 13th at 8 p.m. So check it out if you've not already done so. It is a beautiful, emotional film that dives right into the challenges many of us face in our relationships, especially now when relationships carry themselves online. So before we get started, I wanted to direct your attention to the chat area to the right. This is where you can chat it up. This is where you can chat it up with other attendees and our special guest. So I would highly encourage you to do that. And also, if you could ask a question, there's a button at the bottom there that you can go ahead and do that. So part of the festival experience that we cannot replicate entirely is an in-person audience connection. So we ask and encourage you to ask those questions and engage with one another. Karen, do you have headphones?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, can you grab those? Okay, awesome. This is our virtual life here.
I'm sorry.
No, you're great. This is great. This is like being part of the movie. Right?
They're kids at home, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I want to tell the audience a little bit about you. Just like the couple in the film, Keren ben Rafael is a director living between Paris and Tel Aviv, born and raised in Israel. She studied cinema at the prestigious La Famis. Did I say that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. School in Paris. She has an impressive career with some of her short films selected in different festivals around the world. She is definitely what I would consider a film festival gem. Her first full-length feature was Virgins, and that was released in 2018, which the Gershman Philadelphia Jewish Film Festival showed that same year. And while the second full-length film, The End of Love, was released in this very memorable year of 2020. And just a fun fact, Keren not only spent time in Paris and Tel Aviv, but she spent a moment here in the city of living in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, specifically the Hampton House building. So I'd like to welcome you, a big, warm welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks a lot. Really happy to be here with you.
We're most grateful that you are here. So I really enjoyed this film. It was very easy for me to connect with the characters. And although, it is a beautiful film, it is somewhat sad and tragic to watch, this couple's love disintegrate in front of you on screen. And I think those of us that have had these moments within our relationships could really connect with these characters. There are definitely moments where, the pit of my stomach, it did not feel very good. And so for me, that's a success when your audience can connect so closely with the characters. It also made me question, what does it mean to be present to your partner? What does it mean to be present to your child? And is it enough to communicate and have meaningful, long-lasting relationships through the internet? And even now, romance and how we court one another has changed in this digital age. And I think, again, this film reflects, modern day, what's happening within relationships. The proverb, absence makes the heart grow fonder, definitely is tested. And, my father would say, Chrissy, do you know the other side of that? And I was like, no. He's like, absence makes the heart grow fonder to those who are near, which I feel has the most relevance here in this particular film. And so we have so much to ask and so many things to unpack. So I do want to get started by asking you something just a little bit more personal. So I did a little bit of research, and I found out the cinematographer for the last two films of yours was Damien Dufresne. Hopefully.
Dufresne.
The friend. Okay, I did not do that name very well. Which I understand is your companion. And for the same two films, you co wrote the screenplay with a friend, Elise Benrobi. Okay, tell
Yeah.
me, tell me how it was working with your close companion and friend, and how that influenced the writing, creation, and the delivery of the film.
Um, it's quite amazing, first of all, to work with people that are very close. This is something that I love doing. Of course, it can have moments that are more shaky, but in general, it's something that I like. Sorry, I hear myself twice.
Oh,
Um, and we all met in La Tennis. So Damien Dufresne, which is my husband, with who I
ooh,
have children, French-Israeli children, and Elise Benroubi, with which I wrote, but also Delphine Benroubi that produced the film.
mm-hmm,
So we all went to school together, and it's true that it's relations that created something. When you start to work with people and you start to know each other, after a while, something works by itself. It's like magic. It's amazing.
yeah,
So this project, because we already had this, the four of us actually already knew so well to work together. It was, I guess, it had a birth that was in a way easier than other projects because we had this connection. Also between me and the producer, and the way the project started, and also with Elise writing it. We wrote it really fast,
mm,
very different from other projects we did before, and it proved itself to be fine, even though we wrote so fast.
yeah,
And yeah, and with Damian, uh, it's not only that we already have the relationship of a director and a cinematographer, it's also that the story is in many ways constructed through our personal, I mean, it's based on something personal that we share.
mm,
We used to Skype a lot. There were periods that I was thinking a lot about this moment when you close the Skype and you find yourself suddenly alone.
yeah,
Um, and I think this is like, from there, I started to have this idea for the film.
yeah.
Uh, so, uh, so yeah, it's all mixed up together.
Yeah. Well, it turned out beautifully. I for one have a hard time working with my close loved ones. It's it's a little hard, but this project came together. It looks great. So I have a question. Well, I have lots of questions, but I notice you have a cameo in this film. Um, I was asking my coworkers, do you have a cameo in Born in Jerusalem and Still Alive?
What is cameo?
Do you have a moment? Are you in the film even for just a brief
Oh,
second?
sorry. Yeah. First of all, my first film is not Born in Jerusalem. It's Virgins.
Oh, no, no, no. A different film. I'm sorry. A different film that we're showing in the festival by a different filmmaker.
Yeah, I know what it is. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Are you in that film at all?
In his film?
Yes.
No.
No. Okay. Then it must have been somebody that kind of looked like you. But it brought me to the idea of, the Israeli, film community. What does that look like? Is it small and intimate? I mean, it sounds like you have your preferred creative circles. But do you work together as a community in that regard?
I think my case is quite different because I studied in France.
Hmm.
And so, of course, I know people here, and you just said the name of the film, and I know this guy. I met him once or twice, and da, 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 okay. But I'm not as can other cinema, other directors can have this, link to people
Hmm.
with whom they went to school and all that. I have this in a way more in France. I
Oh,
have it
okay.
in both countries, but yeah, I can't say that I'm working here very close to other directors.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. All right. Have you
yeah,
thought about being in front of the camera more versus behind it?
no, but Well, first of all, I was in front of the camera once. It was a very funny experience. I was like 23 or 24, a very long time ago. It was a film of Amos Gitai, and it was a very amazing experience, because it was one of the first time I was on shooting. And now, when I put myself inside this film, it's the first time I do it, and there was a specific reason for which I did it, because the video that I'm showing of the child sickness, it's my son. You can see me in the video. So that was the reason for which I put myself inside. But what it offered me is something that I couldn't imagine before doing it. It's that later on we filmed the scene of Shabbat, the dinner.
Yes.
I imagine this scene very alive, and I imagine like balagan. I don't know if you know this Hebrew word, meaning like mess, a very messy scene of dinner.
Yeah.
And, the guy who plays the dad, he used to say the prayer in a very, gentle way, and I wanted him to be very like messy.
Yeah.
And this time, because I acted in the scene, I had the possibility to physically influence the scene from inside. And this is the first time I had this. I experienced this, and it's quite amazing. I think that the difference from having to cut and say to the actors, "Okay, do this and that," and from being the one that can just like come inside the scene and scream outside, and adding like pepper to the scene from the inside. I really liked it.
Yeah, actually, you delivered my most favorite line in the film, and it's, he does it only for you since there's a goy in the family. It's really important to be Jewish. Okay. And so that resonates with me because admittedly, I am a goy girl. Okay. But I'm also someone that has a very close relationship to the Jewish community. And it's a community that I love and I enjoy serving. And I was curious about this line, why it was so important to be in the film and why you specifically delivered it. I love how you delivered it too. So,
I think it's there are a lot of stuff like this in the film that come really from stuff that we live, as Jew goy couple,
Yeah.
and my family accept him great, but still, I think more in the beginning, we did feel that maybe there is this need of my father and maybe other people as well sometimes, not so intimate, but still, this need to be like more Jewish. To kind of like hold the Jewish, flag.
Right. Was it important that the couple have an interfaith relationship for this film?
Have a what?
An interfaith. So one Jewish, not Jewish.
Yeah, for me it was important because I think maybe because I couldn't imagine something else, being so much, but I think it's also it's like a different, how do you say, different, problems that add on in this couple, so they have the different languages, the different countries, the different families from really different regions and all that. And one of them is also this, is the fact that they are also from different religions. So I guess, it was important.
Right. Oh, that's great. So I actually want to talk about the first 5 minutes of the film. So I want to call it like the sex scene, but after I thought more about it, I don't know that there was so much sex even with themselves for this to even qualify as sex. But for many of us, sex is very important in a relationship. Intimacy, touching, very important in a relationship. We have dopamine that gets released, and overall, it brings us closer. It brings us closer together. And in this particular case, those things are forfeited in their relationship. And for the first 5 minutes, we get a window into their intimate life and the physical and emotional challenges that come up at that moment. And this scene for me sets the tone for the whole entire film. Those of us that have had babies and we know what it's like to have these moments interrupted can definitely sympathize with this couple. But obviously, so we start with Julia and Yuval trying to have this ooh la la, heavy breathing, sensual moment. It is interrupted by their baby Lenny, who starts crying, and Julia, she tends to the baby. She calms the baby down. She returns back to Yuval, but it seems like she's done with it. Like, okay, that moment has passed. I'm ready to move on. Okay. And that's kind of lucky for them to not start all over again because the baby cries again. And what impressed me the most in those scenes was her lullaby, that second lullaby, and the way that the camera chose to focus on certain things. And so in the first part of the lyrics of that lullaby, I didn't memorize it, so I have to read it. The camera's focused on the empty bed and the mirror and the hall door where Julie is tending to Lenny. It's at your mother's side, sleep my little baby. And then the camera goes right and focuses on Yuval, and he's awake, but you can see him starting to like nod off, But the lyrics go, not knowing that your father has gone out to sea. Wave is angry and whispers somewhere else. At your mother's side, sleep my little boy. And sleep my little boy, he is totally asleep. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, maybe she has two little boys that she's trying to raise, but I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt throughout the film. But again, those first 5 minutes really set the tone of what I thought I was going to be expecting in the film. And so can you tell me about that scene? Was the choice of a lullaby very purposeful? And what did you want the audience to take away from those moments?
I think for me in this scene, the most important, of course, is the fact that you will not know yet that they are Skype, right? Mm-hmm. So first of all, this was one thing that we were working on and trying to find, because I really wanted the viewer to kind of like get inside the Skype world, this way that we are filming, this kind of language in which we filmed this film. I wanted them to enter it slowly, not to understand directly. Mm-hmm. So this first thing, first of all, is how to give you the impression that they are in the same place, mm-hmm. but still to use the same, kind of possible point of view of a camera, of a Skype, mm-hmm. In which all the film is filmed. So the really kind of like game was how can I work with these elements, mm-hmm. and of course, as you see in this film, we actually work with one shots. Mm-hmm. So as you were describing, when sometimes you see her, you stay on the empty bed and you see her going behind and singing in the corridor. But then actually, because I do have only two shots. Mm-hmm. I can play between two shots. So the material that I decided to put myself with in this film is actually not very rich. Normally a scene, you shoot, a long shot, close up, another close up, maybe over the shoulder, maybe this, maybe here. No.
Yeah.
You are reduced in a way. We reduced ourselves to having only this point of view of the Skype.
Right.
So I guess the choices come from this as well.
Yeah. Well, and watching the film, it's just it obviously is just so relevant now because a lot of our relationships, they're happening in this context. I'm watching my mom, my boyfriend through a screen, and so again, in the beginning, although I didn't really catch on in the very beginning that they were that they were Skyping, they were video chatting. But later on, realizing that that was the case, I was like, okay, now I kind of feel like a voyeur watching these two, these two in their relationship. So we learn a lot about relationships by those that are closest to us, especially our parents, our caregivers. Julia's mother does not seem to, one, have it all together, and two, she doesn't seem to have any luck with men. And mentions that she can't imagine living with a man. She also encourages Julia to find someone else. So do you think that, Julia's relationship with her mother has any impact on her relationship with Yuval? And do you think her mother's lack of support is a factor in why the relationship was falling apart?
Of course, it influences her relationship, their relationship actually. And I actually think that she was attracted to Yuval because she saw in him someone that has other family, how to say, he has another concept of family. His family is so different than hers. And I think it attracted her to be with someone that his family seemed like fun and normal. So it influenced also in this way. But the most important, I guess, is that I think Julie doesn't want to be like her mother. And this is what the whole film actually shows in some way, how she runs. She tries not to arrive to the point where to the way she sees her mother. I mean, she doesn't want to find herself alone without Yuval. And I think one reason for which she confronts him quite late in the film, I mean, she lets, is also because she's really afraid to find herself alone and to be alone, with the child like her mother was, and then that everything will become, too hard, too complicated, what she feels for her mother as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially if you think that history potentially could be repeating itself. No, I was taken by the mother-daughter relationship, especially since they got into such a very physical fight at some point in the film. Yeah, I was taken back by that. So there's also a scene where Yuval tries to video chat with Julia, but is surprised that it's answered by the babysitter Romeo. And after an interrogation, somewhat interrogation, about what she was wearing, where did she go, he decides to stay on the chat to, in essence, babysit the babysitter. Do you think that this behavior it comes mostly out of concern for his child, or do you think there was a trust issue with Julia at that point?
Yeah, there is a trust issue, which in the beginning, it's like, why is she not there? What is she doing with her time?
Right.
Who is
Why
she
do you
out
look
with?
cute?
And I think this feeling becomes like, and she doesn't even take good care of her baby.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like the same coin, like in the beginning, this is what makes him mad, and then it's just like, and she doesn't even do this. But Yuval has this tendency throughout the whole film to be able really to criticize Julie
Yes.
and still not be there,
Yeah.
and to have, this question of the window, like a lot of his fears, but you're like, wait, you can be here to kind of like look over, your son. So
Right.
it's
That's funny. That was actually my next question because it's like I mean, through the film, he's critical of Julia's parenting. He questions a lot. He makes a lot of, suggestions. There's also a scene where Yuval's family gets involved with how Julia should take care of Lenny. It winds up that, Julia gets very upset, with everyone harping on her. And I felt really bad for her because the reality is that she is raising this little boy as a single parent.
Mm.
She's technically not a single parent, but she's doing it on her own. And it's very frustrating when you have people, especially your partner or your family, be so critical of your parenting when they're not even there. So, I mean, it's a surefire way to really build up resentment in a relationship, which is never good. But I was curious about how severely do you think that impacted their relationship?
Uh, I didn't get the question. How severely? What is that?
How severely do you think it impacted their relationship? Was it very detrimental that he even verbally was not there for her? He was just kind of more picking at her. Do you think that that kind of ate away at her more?
Yeah, of course, and I think as I said just before as well. I mean, I think doing this when you're at home is one thing, but doing this when you're far away and having to see it through the video, it becomes almost absurd in one moment,
Yeah.
like that he's, daring to kind of criticize her, whereas he's not even there.
Yeah.
So, of course, I think it's something that has a lot of issues between them in the film. It's stuff that exists before
Hmm.
this period. I mean, we understand, I think, during the film that all their relationship problems were there before.
Hmm.
But the film, the fact to be far away, is kind of like putting this to an extreme and putting the relationship in much more danger. But
Yeah.
I think also when he's at home, he's someone that picks on her, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
It's not only because he's far away.
Right. Right. She can pick and choose when to turn it off.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
So, conveniently, he fails to mention to Julia that his visa came through, and it was only through Julia reaching out to his friends that she found out about the visa coming through. And there was that opportunity for him to bring his family together. And so, why don't think why did he not tell her immediately that it came through and that he could be reunited with them?
I think Yuval in this film, even though it's easy to see him as like the mean guy a bit, like the
Mm-hmm.
one that I think he's really dealing with issues that are hard as well and that are deep as well, you know.
Yeah.
Um, you can kind of laugh at this issue, but I really understand it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Being suddenly like after being a while in a country that is not yours and
Mm-hmm.
not finding yourself there, and he is not finding himself there as an artist and can't have his work, so his ego is bad. And then suddenly being at home and having the possibility to work again, as simple as that, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
to maybe find himself again, to maybe reconnect and find his center. He feels that if he does this, when he will come back, I don't think he doesn't want to ever come back. He just feels that if he does this, he will come back better.
Right.
And he is
Okay.
afraid, as he says also at one moment, that if he will tell her, she will not understand, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes
So,
sense.
yeah.
Um, we're going to get to some of the audience questions here in just a moment, but the fireworks scene was another scene that left an impression on me. So I'm a very visual person, but the fireworks, when we start relationships, it seems like everything is perfect, it's amazing, and it's like fireworks are going off in our head and in our heart. And towards the end of the film, we see like this reverse explosion of a firework. And it's like, for me, it was almost like, the fireworks when they first saw each other, and then all of a sudden it's like, it gets like sucked back in. And I was curious, is this a symbol of the end of their love? What was the purpose of showing?
Um, so there's a few things. First of all, I think it's funny sometimes how things come and find their place in a film, because I didn't write in the beginning. We didn't write like a fireworks scene. It
Mm,
was a scene, and then we understood that we are shooting around Independence Day in Israel, and we can have,
oh,
and then it became this, and then we wrote the scene like this, But it's
yeah.
funny how it became so important also for us in the film.
Hmm.
But the idea to put the fireworks rewinded is something that I really had in the editing. So
That's
this was
awesome.
really like, and the idea, of course, is because, of course, I mean, I guess it's because from the beginning we realized that the two last scenes, the only scenes that are not video call,
Hmm.
that are like real life or real cinema scenes. Um, it's very, we didn't know how exactly to let you notice that it's a flashback.
Hmm.
And so the rewind was this way of, like a bit teasing, telling you, yeah, okay, we're going back. And I think most of people get this, even if they don't think about it. It's like a riddle or something that you get it
Right.
without even thinking.
Right. I get very excited when I can pick up on certain things. I did have to process for a moment, the fireworks did alert me that it was going to be something where I'm looking into the past. And because
Mm.
again, how you chose to change the filming of their interaction. But then I also was impressed. I was like, you know what they did? We're starting at the end and the beginning, and the beginning is the end. And I was like,
Exactly.
she's a genius. I
Wow.
loved it. Loved, loved, loved it.
But we felt it was really important in the end of the film to kind of like give something a bit more with hope, or more beautiful, or more like about love, because the
Yeah.
film is about love in the end. It's not about, hatred or something.
No, no,
So we
no.
really wanted something. And also we felt like getting out of the Skype kind of suffocating system, So this
Right.
was also a way to at last to kind of like cut with this way of filming that I had a lot of fun doing it, but it is suffocating. It's not what we usually do as filmmakers.
Yeah.
We usually cut every scene in like 10 shots, So it was this feeling that we need to, yeah, to cut from this style at one moment, to kind
Hmm.
of like break our own rules and go inside something with more liberty, with more sun, with more colors,
Hmm.
and also, as I said, with more like uh, optimism,
Hmm.
something like good that can come.
Yeah. So this is actually perfect. So one of our audience members had said that ending with three exclamation points. It breaks my heart so much. It's so ambiguous. Do they stay together?
Ah, so of course, the idea is that everyone can decide will they stay together or not. For me,
Yeah.
I think in a way it was funny because with the script writer, we realized at one point that I was more trying to make them. I believe that they will stay together, and she
Hmm.
believed that they will not stay together.
Oh,
And
interesting.
we knew that we want to have this ending that is open,
Hmm.
that lets you kind of choose where it's going.
Hmm.
But it's funny when we realize that each one is kind of a little bit trying to tear to the other direction.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Whew, that's interesting. So the next question, how has the response to your film changed since quarantine and all of us have been more or less living our lives on screens?
Yeah, that's quite amazing because it's true that the film was done way before, and I did have this experience of Skype way before.
Hmm.
And we actually saw, because the film was shown first time in Venice 1 year ago, and it was running around in festivals, so I could see the difference. And it's true that it's quite amazing. I think more than all, it's the elder, more older people that got inside this system of video calls that were not that much before inside it, and that in the last 6 months are living it, as all of us, having to see their grandchildren and all that. I think it's even more extreme with them in the sense that I think before maybe they could not as much connect.
Yeah.
And the youngsters, they knew it before as well. I mean, young, I mean, not only young, maybe everyone until, 50 years old, they already use it quite a lot before. But it's true that I think a lot of them lived scenes, lived very kind of like explosive or intimate or a very different scene through video call in the last 6 months that they didn't live before. Because maybe before it was just talks like this, but they don't have something so intense,
Yeah.
it become more intense, I think, for all of us. Oh, the live in general,
Right.
and the live through Zoom, or Skype or whatever. It's
Yeah.
more intense, so you can, I guess, identify much more with the film through that.
Yeah, I like the part in the film where Julia's mother's trying to like work the camera. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, I recognize that.
yeah.
um,
It's funny because we didn't want to make the film feel too much Skypey.
mhm,
I think it's one of the only times that you see someone doing that. It's this scene. We chose really like to make the Skype feel more cinematic
mhm.
and not to show you like the technical problems, the out of focus, the fact that we don't always hear each other that well. We really
Yeah.
wanted you to be immersed in it.
Yeah. Well, I think you
Yeah.
did a good job, showing both the reality of what it's like to live in a digital age and just the filming and the concept of it.
Mm.
So another question we have, Judy has asked, I felt the film showed cultural differences between the couple well. Do you think this was one of the strongest components that pulled them apart?
Yeah, of course. I think a couple that is from different backgrounds is is more complicated. Of course, even two people that are from the same background can have problems,
Hmm.
but then when you have these cultural differences, it makes everything more complicated because the ground is not the same.
Yeah.
The way you educate children, the way the family is, the way, and even the way, like, how do you live in your country is different. So
Hmm.
all of these things are in the beginning exciting for a couple, I guess. As I said before, she's attracted to the fact that he's like this family guy and all that.
Hmm.
But then it can become, of course, a problem and a real problem, I guess. Because it's something that it's hard to bridge on this gap,
Yeah,
the differences. Yeah.
it is. So it looks like we have another question that, okay, so the one scene where Julia contacts Yuval and there are flashes and lights of a nightlife, was that an accidental connection on his part, or intentionally showing her that he has a life apart from her as well?
Wow, it's funny because I think I heard a lot of questions until now, and I never had this one. So thanks. That's cool. Um, yeah, the idea is that it's an accident, that he saw her by accident. But the truth behind this is that it was supposed to be another scene. This moment, we filmed it in another way. And this scene was really kind of like created through editing.
Mm,
Because in the real scene, in the original one, it was supposed to be him, the one that was in the script, it was supposed to be him calling her from this nightclub and shouting with his friends and showing her how much he's enjoying himself.
right.
So I guess in between these two is the two possibilities that the question poses. But in the end, for me, it was an accident. It's like
That's
he
nice.
called her. He had, what we call a pocket call, maybe. You know, phone.
We call it butt dial.
Yeah, exactly.
No, your five pocket dial is probably much more appropriate.
I like but dial. Yeah.
That's great. I have one last question for you. So we've seen you have two full length films that we've presented. Do you have anything else that's up and coming for you?
I'm actually working on one film that is not my own. I mean, something that I was brought into. It's an adaptation of a book, and it's quite progressed already. The script is not bad, and I think we're like getting there. But it's very different for me. It's not what I usually do. So
Hmm.
it's interesting as well, I think, to go on other places.
Yeah,
And then with Elise, we're working with the same group of people. We're working on a new project.
that's
And
great.
yeah, and this is like we're in the beginning, but it's a project that we thought about for a long time already. So I hope we will not be too slow.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
you let us know when all those things happen because we love you at our festival. So
Thanks.
on that
I wish
note,
I can come to Philadelphia one time. I love Philadelphia.
yeah, well, we'd love to welcome you back. So next project, heads up, let us know. We
Yeah.
come. All right. Well, we will let you go. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for making a great film and having this wonderful discussion with us. Thank you, audience, for joining us. And again, check out The End of Love that is streaming on the GPJFF platform until November 13th at 8 p.m. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks
Bye
a lot.
bye.
Bye.